All right, we are live for the May Learn Airbnb hosting class live question and answer session. Thank you for joining us this
Yep.
morning. I'm Jim Brees,
Hey, I'm Simon.
and thank you again for joining. We're going to get started with all the questions in about a little bit less than a minute. We're going to start at the top of the hour, let everybody join in. So give us a few moments here. We're going to pull up all the materials for today. If you're in the chat, go ahead and drop a line in the chat box for us. Love to see. You can drop your follow-up questions in the chat box. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and send us an email at info@LearnAirbnb if there are any things particular that you haven't gotten answered or things that pop up as you hear questions on here. All right, a little bit more together here. All right, so all right, cool. So we are at the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and get started. We got a lot of questions to cover today. So again, thank you for joining, and let's just hop right into the questions. So the first one we have is from Jill, and it says, "Hi, Jim and Simon. I'm going on a little vacation at the end of August for a few days, and the location we're going to doesn't have cell service or internet. That's a plus, but it can also be something. Oh no, what are we going to do about that?" So she says, "I love the fact that we're getting away, but am in a dilemma on how to respond to my Airbnb emails and messages. So she has a daughter, and can she have her do it? Can we help her out with this?" So Jill's been a great student of ours, longtime student, and very, very diligent on growing her Airbnb business. So this is a big problem, and I'm sure some of you are going to face this because if you do it for over a year, you're going to have some vacations. So in quickness, you can have your daughter take care of all the emails and communications from Airbnb. All you simply have to do is just give her your login credentials and then allow her to log in while you're still able to connect to the internet. Because what may happen is, say, if your daughter's in New York and you're in California, Airbnb may recognize that, hey, your account's been logged into something that's 4,000 or 5,000 miles from where you normally log in. Please confirm. So that you want to make sure you get the confirmation you want. That's if they do that. Now, there's another thing you can do is called adding an additional host. So you can just Google up additional Airbnb hosts. There's an article from allaboutairbnb.com. It's a person that we partnered with, and not necessarily partnered with, not someone we work with, and he's a very smart guy. Collaborated with. That's the word I'm looking for. Collaborated with. Named Mateo. Very smart guy, and there's a thing on there on how to do it. Pretty much, you're going to go into the back end of your listing, and you're going to hit management on the bottom left. You're going to be a thing that says co-hosting, and you can add a co-host. You're just adding their email, someone they already have an Airbnb account. That's a more difficult long-term way to do it, but really, if you're going to do it just for 5 days, give your person, your daughter, your friend, the credentials and let them log in. Prep them on the details first, right? So let them know what's off limits. If someone's requesting a late check-in and that's not something you offer at all, then don't do it. Or a late checkout, don't. Let them know the things that are off limits. Or the FAQs, whatever's being asked most often. And then also give them some free reign to make smart business choices. It's just one or two guests. You're not going to untie the whole business out of this. I trust that your daughter's probably got just as good as a heart as you do, Jill. So I would trust her. And what's the last part I wrote on here? Last thing is make sure you have boots on the ground. If your daughter's not in town, like if there's going to be guests in town or check-ins, make sure you have someone there that can help remedy any situation for you, broken pipes, lockouts, and anything else like that. So that should hopefully answer that question for you. Just let your daughter take care of the things and give her the 411 on what works, and it's just 5 days. So hopefully that works out for you.
Yep. All right. The next question is from Lori, and the question is, how can I make sure I get the highest rates during the, I think, CMA's Country Music Awards?
Yes.
In June. I will have 2 listings up by then, a private room in the main house and a separate walkout basement 1-bedroom apartment. If I choose the flexible pricing option, will that be enough, or do I need something else since my listing is so new? So there's a couple of things here. One is because your listing is new, so the short answer is it's going to really depend on what your competitor listings are doing. Okay, because if going into it, the listings that you're competing with that are kind of in the same area, between now, look at what their rates are right now. If if none of them are in the know, like they're just kind of using the the pricing option with Airbnb, and they're just kind of doing it automatically and letting the system do it for them. What what you might find is then the market isn't taking advantage of the the event, which in that case it's kind of hard to take advantage of it if your competitors are not, because they're not responding to it when people are looking at the listings. You can't charge more if nobody else is charging more. So that's one of the first steps. You got to see if people are charging more. And some markets are going to be more sophisticated, or people have already booked up a lot. So what's left is they're smarter, hopefully, or there's not a lot left. If there's not a lot left, then you still have some time. Then you could charge more. Okay. And a way to think about how you want to charge more is going into, we still got, what is it, like probably over 6 weeks or so. I don't know
what June, so it's like 4 weeks probably.
4 weeks
of June.
Oh, and so June. Oh, okay. So it's probably only like.
Let's look it up right now.
Yeah, I don't know how far off it is, but you have 2 listings, and if it's we're only a couple weeks away, what you want to do is try to get at least one listing filled up. Okay, just because we're kind of getting really close, what you don't want to risk is trying to ask for too much and then end up having 2 empty units. Okay, so at most at the worst, what you want to do is you fill up one first, and then you try to see if you can get a premium for the other one. But if you're getting really close to it, like a week out, then drop your prices to make sure you fill it up. Okay, and you can check out the module that we have where we specifically talk about a whole schedule, actually. So I'm not going to go into the full schedule about the timing, but over there's a recommended schedule, how much to charge, how far out from the event, and then basically, then how do you reduce it, and then if you fill it up or not. If you don't, then the week before drop it by this much or that much. Okay, so definitely refer to that module. You can follow that whole schedule.
Yeah, and if so for anybody else that's looking for events, you start out really high, obnoxiously high at the beginning. Some people plan 6 to 8 months out. So if there's something that's like you have a huge award show, if you normally charge $200, put it at $800 or $1,000 just to see if anybody will grab at it, because those are the opportunities to make the big jumps in your income without much extra effort on your end. Just being cognizant of the calendar in your area. Cool. So you want to use the video or do you have the picture? Notes.
Oh no. Oh yeah. I just did this one. Yeah. Okay. So the next question is for me. Also, it's from Tuyen. The question is, what kind of property is good to invest for Airbnb businesses? In an old apartment, a long house, or to divide many rooms in a new apartment, or a villa with some facilities. That's a good question. The answer is all of them, but for different markets. So some markets where people are going there, they're only looking for villas. Maybe that so if you're kind of the odd person out and there's not a lot of demand for individual rooms, then you don't want to do that, right? So it's really dictated by the demand, which means you kind of have to get an understanding of the market that you're in. Where are you? Some markets, for example, like in kind of more metro downtown areas, and that there are a lot of single or just 2-person kind of travelers, then having an area where you split them into individual private rooms will probably be better, because you have higher demand for those, and you can fill up more of the rooms and have more listings. Ultimately, you're going to get a better bang for your buck from that unit. But it really depends on what market you're in. So different kinds of businesses will work for different markets. Now, with that said, some things that generally are going to be helpful for units is things that are well located, that's convenient to either the reasons why people travel to the area. So if there's some kind of attraction. Location is going to be more important than the type. Right, you want to be very conveniently located to the main reason why they're traveling to that area. If they're business travelers, then you want to be located close to where those business folks need to be, rather than be far away. Right, so that's going to be really important. Some other features, if you have something that's like a private entrance, where if there's easy parking, something that's very visible and easy to find, that's not difficult to find. those kind of things, attributes tend to make it easier for for your listing. And over the long term, you're going to have less issues with people not finding it. It actually saves you time because just those things can eliminate some simple things that happen all the time, especially if you got a lot of guests coming in all the time. So if imagine now, like, you go from having something where every other guest is like driving around, can't find your unit, and having to call you, and having all those interactions, to something where as soon as they show up, the Airbnb drops them off and they see it right there, and there's no questions, right? So that can save you time. Not necessarily add to your bottom line directly, but it saves you a lot of time, so you don't have to put in as much effort. Okay. But other than that, make sure you find something that works for your market.
Yeah, works for your market, and creates. I'm gonna hit it at the end. It creates a positive guest experience. You may find a place that's great. It's cheap. Like, why the hell is it so cheap? Because it's probably off the beaten path. You can't find it. There's no parking. There's issues in the walls that you don't know about. So really do the due diligence on the guest experience. And then number two, I've been hearing more people are investing in multifamily properties, because one thing that we know as an investor is that there's legislation out there that's kind of iffy. It's wishy-washy in some markets. So if you have a multifamily complex, you can do, maybe say it's an 8-plex, you can do 4 or 6 units short-term and then 2 that are long-term, and then have those 2 long-term people be your on-site hosts, okay? And say legislation goes sideways and they kick out short-term rentals, now you have an 8-plex that you can do long-term rentals. So make sure it makes financial sense on both sides of that coin, short and long-term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. One more, another one for me. This one's from Francisco, and it's, how do I get a 20% cash on cash return on all my purchases with 20% down? So this is more of a concept that's coming from real estate investing. Cash on cash return is essentially kind of the interest. You can think of it sort of like the interest that you get in a given year based on the amount that you put in. So if you invested $100,000, and at the end of the day from that year, let's say you make $5,000 in profit, then your cash on cash return for the $100,000 that you have to put in is 5%. But let's say you borrowed $50,000 on that, and you only put in $50,000, and then now you get to keep a little bit less of the $5,000, but maybe $4,000 of profit, because $1,000 is used for paying debt. Or so then now your cash on cash return is $4,000 out of $50,000, which is 8%. Okay, so that's kind of what we're talking about, cash on cash return. So it usually factors in taking on debt, in which case that's what he's asking. If I put 20% down, how can I get 20% cash on cash return on the 20% down that I put in for that property? So the good thing is, Francisco, if in the Airbnb context, it's a lot easier to do that than in a traditional real estate investing concept. Because in traditional real estate, you're looking at a purchase primarily, right? So in purchases, depending on what market you're in, I mean, it's going to be really hard to do that. Like in Southern California, where we're at, the average, just a regular single-family home, you're looking at $600,000
minimum, and it's in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah, not even in the best neighborhoods, and 20% down, you're looking at over $100,000 there. So that means to get 20% return on $100,000 cash on cash, you need to make a profit of $20,000 a year. Okay, so to make a profit of $20,000 a year, you need to be doing revenues of probably like $40,000 plus on your unit, which is pretty tough to do. Okay, so if in that case, but you can't purchase it. Okay, so the only way you really can consistently achieve 20% cash on cash return or higher, in some cases way higher actually, is to not have to buy it. Is where you get in a lease agreement. So let's say you get a lease where you're paying, $1,000 a month for your cost of the lease. Okay, $1,000. So you're looking at $12,000 for your cost. So that's and then but your investment is just in your furniture and your security deposits, right? So maybe you spend, let's say on a conservative side, you spend $10,000 on your investment, okay? Because you're not buying the house or the property, you're just buying the furniture and you're putting in the the security deposit, maybe the first or last month's rent. So 10,000 is kind of a, so then your 20% cash on cash return means you need to make just only 2,000 in profit for the year, right? Now, if you're in a market where you're paying 1,000 for your apartment or for the unit, you should be only willing to pay the 1,000 if you think you can make 2,000 plus probably on Airbnb, right? So even after expenses, you should be able to make at least $500 in profit from that unit, right? So $500 over the course of the full year, you're looking at maybe $6,000 on your $10,000 investment. So even in that basis, if you're leasing it, you're probably looking at more at 50 to 100% cash on cash return. So if you want to consistently do that, don't buy the asset. Convince a landlord or an owner to allow you to do it on a lease basis, so that you just lease it, so you don't have that huge cash outlay, because that's what determines your cash on cash return, how much you have to put in initially.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the answer.
Very detailed answer.
Yeah, that's the answer. Go with try to lease it. That's the only way you're going to do that. You're not going to be able to do it consistently if you're buying it.
Yeah. And look for master leases. There's a thing out now where people are going to rent entire floors or entire wings of apartment buildings, and that's the kind of a thing. Or going to corporate leasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, a corollary to that then is, sometimes it's hard to do that one at a time. And with Airbnb starting to test and roll out their building owners program, which is something that they're kind of, it's like they're educating apartment landlords and building owners to basically convince them to allow their tenants or experienced hosts to come in to basically host units in their complex, right? So you can approach apartment owners that may have multiple units and tell them, hey, I'm going to bring in all the furniture, and either you let me pay the rent, and then I'll pay you slightly higher rent. That's kind of our old strategy before. Pay slightly higher rent, and you can kick me out anytime, 30-day notice. Or what you can say is like, hey, I'll bring in all the furniture. You don't charge me the rent or charge me as much rent, but then we share in the profits. Yeah. Okay. And in that case, like your initial investment per unit is going to be lower than doing it all on your own. But then if you have the option to do more units, your overall cash on cash return is going to be much higher in that way. So
cool. Great answer. That's a great answer. So let's hit some of the questions that are in the chat box now. Thank you for joining us, everyone. So Israel Harold says, what about insurance? So I tell them I'm running a business. 100% you want to be truthful with your insurance person. I know there's like kind of a connotation like let's hide from the insurance company because we don't want our rates to go up. But being transparent with your insurance company will allow them to actually pay out on claims, because there are these things called exclusions on insurance. So on a homeowner's policy, there's this thing, most homeowner policies have this thing called a business exclusion clause. That means that any claim that you make while you're making money or income, or actually it's called getting consideration, which could be like me giving you this before this type of thing. So if there's any exchange of assets or consideration, they'll deny the claim. So you need to be truthful with your insurance agent. Tell them you do run a business, and Airbnb generates some of your leads. You can look at Proper Insurance. I'm going to type them into the thing right now. Proper.insure, and our contact there, his name is Darren. And you can also check out these two in there. Okay, these are two of these links here. So there's Proper Insurance, that's for the U.S. only, Proper.insure, and then CBIZ, they do for a whole world. It's called business liability insurance or supplemental business insurance. You just need to be protected. I know there's the Airbnb host guarantee and the $1 million whatever insurance, all the things they have. Those are great. They may have, well, I'm not saying they're great. I'll take that back. They are good marketing materials, but they do have a lot of exclusions. They don't have much teeth as a policy to protect you. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. So I say if you really have a big asset, like you give $1 million home, if you have priceless artwork, if you have nice equipment inside the house or whatever it is, insure it on your end. It's just
put it away if you can.
Yeah, if it's expensive, if you have priceless artwork, like this bottle was like some kind of thing from 1800, don't put it out on the shelf because someone may knock it over. Yeah, and you don't want to. And you can't insure kind of things like that. So I would say,
there's only downside to leaving it there. People generally like anything that is very strongly related to personal taste Try to put that away, because chances are 99.9% of the guests are not going to appreciate it the way you do anyways.
Yeah.
But then you introduce just potential risks of you getting it damaged, lost, stolen, whatever. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, but consider, I'll just leave it at this. Consider your let's say, consider your insurance carrier as your business partner. They're here to protect you. And like when something bad happens, like say someone breaks their arm, call them immediately, because they're going to ask you to get documentation. You need to see them as a business partner in your end. They're not here to make everything bad for you. They trust you enough to insure you, so let them go and fight for you. That's why you pay $3,000 a year, so they're going to call the guest and say, hey, I need you to fill out ABC form, I need you to take pictures, I need you to go to the doctor, we need a police report. They'll do all that stuff for you. That's why you pay them the money. So yes, tell them you run a business is a short answer to that question. Now another question we have in the chat box, and then I'll hop into the prepared ones. Simply Suni says, I'm in Jamaica and I notice that it's hard to please North Americans, so he or she is forced to price their place at a lower cost, which means I'm assuming it looks like a better value. So they ask, can you give me suggestions to help me get some money on my investment? So he or she says they're a super host, by the way. So congratulations on the super host stuff. It always makes it easier to make weight move around when you have a super host. So now things to increase your investment. So you're dropping your price. So what are we going to do, Simon? We're dropping our price. How can we increase ROI on our investment?
Well, I want you to first think about that. Consider that your location versus your competitors. Maybe it could be a location thing. It might not be because your price too high. It just might be your price too high for where you're at currently. But that might not always be the case. It's just if you're look at who you're competing with first, because if your unit's really good and you're a super host, you have some advantages there. You may be able to hold the price and just expect fewer nights, because that's a better option. If you're making the same amount of money, it's better to make it from fewer nights and from guests that are willing to pay more than from a lot more nights booked with guests that are paying less, right? Because what happens when if you reduce your prices a lot and you're kind of priced much lower, even after you've done, you're outside of the early stages already. If you are priced much lower, you might be drawing the what do you call them? Penny pinchers.
Yeah.
And the ones that will come and then they're going to ask for all these things, and they tend to be like much harder to deal with as guests.
More hours in,
and you're going to have to turn more of these harder guests and more painful guests to make the same amount of money. Just some consideration there,
Yeah. And two more things that came to mind is changing adding additional languages to your listing. So if you're only using English, consider having your listing translating into Chinese. Different European countries. Then you can draw people in. So like when you're searching from Europe to go to Jamaica, if it's not written in French, it's not very easy to consume. There's probably a smart learning algorithm that tries to translate it, but it doesn't really come across. So try to find a native speaker. You can go onto Fiverr.com. That's Fiverr.com, and they can do translation for you. You can look up, just go and Google translation services and see if you can do that. So that's number one, is adding languages. But before even adding languages, make sure your listing copy is actually communicating the right value of why you deserve to be at a higher price point.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have something that other people don't have, there's only two ways to do it. Well, there's multiple ways, but I see only two ways to do this. Same price as your competitors, better stuff, or lower price with the same offering, which means better value on both ends. So if you want to stay at $100 a night, then offer more stuff that guests value.
Yeah.
All right. And then the third thing is make sure that your pictures tell a good story. If you've got junk pictures from a cell phone, it's not going to do the same as if you've got something from a DSLR, something from a real estate photographer. Make sure that the listing is conveying the high value.
Yeah. Just like we've talked to like thousands of hosts, especially for first-time hosts in the first year. Almost all the time when they're like, I'm not getting the kind of rents that I was expecting, almost all of the time there are low-hanging fruits.
Yes, that's a good one.
There are always low-hanging fruits that they haven't quite done yet. Don't jump to price adjusting, because that should be one of your last levers. look at your photos, look at your descriptions, look at your offering, look at your your calendar. Just do all those other things first, the low hanging fruits first, and then look at pricing.
Yeah, like Simon said, the budget travelers, they become. The 2 points on that is that you have to turn the space over more often, which means more hours input and more cash outlay.
So then your profit per hour that you put in is going to be lower.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you're going to have less fun.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot less fun, which is going to hit on one of the questions later someone talks about. Great, I'm glad you like the advice. So let's hop into the next question I have here. So Bonnie asks, should I get a business attorney before starting out? I think this is a really smart question, and it comes down to what your risk tolerance is and what your business goals are. So if you just consider how much do you have to lose? What are you trying to actually create? If you're trying to generate a $2 million business, spend the few $1,000s to talk to a business attorney for a few reasons. Business attorneys, they help you to know which way to organize your business is best. Is it a C Corp, an LLC, an S Corp? Is it a sole proprietorship or whatever? Because you may not be in a market that is conducive to having LLCs. It's not the best tax incentives for you. Or maybe you want to do S Corp because you're doing setting out shares to investors that are putting in, or building a fund of like $300,000 and you need to put out shares. And there's a bunch of different things, so you need to talk with a business attorney to get to your goals and see what's best for you.
Yeah, I think the bigger your ambitions are, the more we recommend that you do talk to a legal advisor and a financial advisor, and definitely a tax person.
Yeah, tax. Yeah, you don't want to. It's like the end of the year. A good tax person to talk to is Derek Davis.
Yeah, but if you're if you're pretty much just kind of renting your own spaces, maybe you're just going to be having a handful of units. Maybe just talk to a trusted friend, but definitely get the proper insurance.
Yeah,
make sure you're covered on that end.
Yeah, and just like with this, you don't have to have an ongoing relationship with someone. Just do a quick consultation, and they can answer all the questions you have, and you're like, okay, cool, this is where I need to go. Because you may not be in a very difficult situation. So at least go out there and spend the $500 for an hour consultation or whatever it costs for a legal person in your area. Now, he or she asks, how can I start a successful Airbnb without going crazy? Kind of going back to the question we just answered. He or she says, I live 3 hours from our house in New Orleans, and so I want to set up a system where I can work remotely. But we go down there 2 to 3 times a month. So you're down there pretty much every 10 days, it sounds like, which is good. That's great to go and check in, see how the place is maintenance-wise, and make sure everything's working correctly. But I'll say, how do I do this without losing and going crazy? It's like, how well do you manage stress? Are you okay with trusting other people to run your place? Because, as I said in the beginning of this thing, you need to have boots on the ground. There's no such thing as fully remote hosting. It's impossible.
You basically need to pass that to somebody that you can trust. There's always going to be somebody representing you locally to respond.
Yes, whether that's a company, a person, a family member, or a college student, whatever, or a co-host, whatever that's going to be. And again, realize that this is the hospitality business, not the rental business. It's very easy to own a multi-family apartment building for long-term rental in multiple cities and states and countries, because there's not much things that need to be maintained, and you can send a company out there to fix the toilet in 2 days, whereas we need a toilet fixed tonight for Airbnb.
Yeah.
Again, the person on the ground is going to be the person doing the lockouts, all these other things. So how do you do it without going crazy? Get a good, dependable person to help you out. That's the most important thing, is having a person on the ground. When you're doing your visits, you most likely will handle all of the guest communications on your end wherever you are, and then you just have to be in contact with your boots on the ground.
Yeah, and one way is there's starting to be more professional hosts that will host a portfolio of assets on behalf of property owners. Now, you may not want to completely offload, but there's somebody that's doing it for dozens or so units in the area. You might ask, like, hey, I don't need you to take it on the way you do the other ones full time. I'm gonna pretty much do it on my own, but could I pay you some retainer, a small little retainer, just for emergencies?
Yes.
That's an option too.
He's co-hosting. Let's put 2 links here. It's one of these 2 links. Yes, this is live, Astrid.
Yeah.
Yes, this is live. So I just put up 2 links on there, Airbnb.com, the co-hosting program. What this co-hosting program is that they allow you to select super hosts in the area of your space to do stuff for you, do work for you at a certain percentage. So if you want to offload just the check-ins, you can choose like, hey, I think check-ins are worth 10% of the gross income. Here you go. So check that out. There's a lot of different options, but it really comes down to your risk tolerance.
Yeah, and this is changing. I mean, this is something that they're testing out. They've been testing, and it's going to be evolving. So just keep. We're going to keep our eyes and ears to the ground to see what's going on.
Yeah.
This is exciting. What they're doing is for the hosts that wanted to host more. Because one of the things that's happening with this whole space is there's going to be each city. A lot of the cities are going to start to clarify their regulation and the language around that, and a lot of it is going to mean there's going to be some sort of a limit in the maximum number of days that a particular unit can be on the market. Okay, so what that means for a lot of the hosts is before they could host for the whole year or for half a year, now they might be hosting less for their same unit, but they still want to host more. So what they for the hosts that want to host more, there are other hosts that don't want to spend the time, so then they can host for somebody else. And then so the number of units and days that they host for the year doesn't decrease for those hosts. So what that means is, for those of you in your situation, that may be far away, that can't be as active, there's going to be more options available for you that are specifically kind of, that gets the stamp of approval from Airbnb.
Yes. So, let me just get some of these things going on here. All right, so I think that answers the question, yeah? Okay, cool. So let's go to Margot's question. How can I work this for sustainable income? So just kind of continuation of the next one. And this is a great question as well. So again, see how this fits into your life. How much time you have available that you can actually spend on hosting. That's what makes it sustainable, is it fitting into your life. Because the reason you're going to stop is because there's too much time input, not enough money.
Yeah, and the big question is, you can. It's not just on the personal front, but there's two sides of the equation. This one is this sustainable for you in terms of what you need to do, and the other one is this sustainable for that market that you're in.
Yes.
There has to be enough demand. If that's not there, then it's not sustainable by default.
Exactly. And then so we'll just go into like a 1-bedroom listing is about 8 to 9 hours a week. So let's just back into like what an hourly rate is. We keep coming back to the hourly rate because that's very easy to normalize this versus another job, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's called a normalized number to see what you're earning per hour. All right, so let's just say 8 hours a week for a 1-bedroom listing. If you're pulling in $2K a month from this listing, whether that's gross or net, I'm not going to get too deep into that. But just again, it's $2,000 and there's $40 hours put in for the month. It's about $50 an hour.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you and you like that kind of income, go ahead and do it. Say you take half of that away and it goes to expenses. You got 1,000 divided by 40. It's $25 an hour. Is that sustainable for you? With the amount of effort, are you happy with the return on it?
And the thing is, if you're more active as a host, or you're going to be hosting yourself, then you're kind of tied to that area, right? You got to be responsive, So that's something to consider. If you want to be able to be all over the place, you're going to have to pay someone else to do it for you.
Yeah, and then one thing also is like you may be in a seasonal market where this can be very sustainable for you. And if you just have to only crush it in the summertime because you're by the beach, then great, you've got 90 days to make 80% of your money. And then just whatever, the rest of the year, you don't have to host. You're making all that income within 90 or 120 days, and then that's it. So that's, look at the market you're in. Always based upon the market and with the travel demand. Some people ask, hey, can I get a side income off this? Well, if you live in the middle of nowhere and there's no reason for people to come there, you're not going to be able to get a sustainable side income from this. Yeah. So let's keep moving forward. Another question from Cheryl. She's a new student who she done a couple of days ago. Hopefully you're on, Cheryl. We'd love to have you on for this, listening to this. But I plan to have 3 bedrooms, 1 suite with a private bath and 2 that share a bath, listed in my house, but not all are going to be ready at the same time. Is it better? Now the question is it better to wait and list all 3 or go ahead and list as they become available? Also, do I mention in each listing that about the other listings in case a large group wants to book more than 1 bedroom? So it depends on how far along those spaces are, in my opinion, and the type of renovations that are needed. So I would say wait if you need to do some very dirty, messy construction to bring another room up to space. Like if you have to knock walls down or refurnish the bathroom and stuff. If I've got a guest in the master suite, say that one's ready, and I'm doing a lot of banging, a lot of dust and stuff in this other room, it's going to take down the experience of that first guest, and you're just going to crush your Airbnb rating, and people are not going to be happy with it. So consider what kind of construction you need to do. Now, if it's going to only be a few weeks, go ahead and just wait. You don't need to be up there. You missed the past 8 years of Airbnb hosting. 2 more weeks is not going to make that big of a difference, right?
So to get it right.
Yeah, to get it right. Now, don't wait if you need to have cash to finish the other rooms. So, or if it's going to be a long, long time until you finish that one. Like if you need 10K to finish the next rooms and you're not going to have that for 6 months, don't wait. Okay. Now, if you do need to go and do that, and there's going to be the messy construction, so conflicting of the wait and don't wait, you can block off time on your calendar. Say you want to block off June 16th to the 23rd because you want 1 week to do the tile work in that new bathroom. You don't want people in there. So there's a way to balance this. So it depends on what your cash needs are, really, is what it comes down to, and how fast those units are going to be done.
But if you're not doing like heavy construction, maybe you just, I don't know, you're just painting and you're trying to get the right furniture, and there's a lot of junk in some of the other bedrooms or something, then make one really nice, and the other ones just make sure everything's really hidden, right? And in that case, it might be a good thing to do one and to really focus on one, to get it right, to get comfortable, to get get good with your process, because it can be pretty like daunting the first time you're doing all the communications, and depending on your demand, you might suddenly get an influx of demand, or it might be slower than you think. You don't know, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good part.
It's good to. It's always going to be good to learn. It's easier to learn with one than to launch with 3.
Yeah.
So sometimes, even if you have all 3 ready, you could stagger them. Launch one for like 2 months, get comfortable, and then launch the next one, because then you can build on your learnings from the previous ones as well.
Yeah. Especially if you find out there's a hang up that you need to have in the other room, like you need more closet space, and you didn't build I didn't build closet space. Wow, what?
Yeah, because you don't know what you might be missing for your unit or your place. Maybe there's something from your first guest that there's something that needs to be done for the house overall, or something in the front, or whatever. And then now you got 3 listings. You got a lot more people coming. The damage from something that you didn't know about or weren't aware of is going to be greater. The potential damage, right?
Yes. So. And then lastly, the second part of that question was, should I let the guests know? 100% let them know, because you pretty much have a large space. You're just partitioning it into 3 areas. So there's a part in the listing called the other things to note. And in there, what you can just write is that we have 2 other bedrooms that you could potentially offer to you if you have a larger party, pending that it's available for the time that you want to travel. Message me and I'll let you know. But they can also look at you, and you can even tell them, look at my host profile to see the other listings.
Yeah.
So let them know. I mean, you're trying to be accommodating to your guests. Cool. Let's go here. We got Harold. He says, can I advertise be 420 friendly on the Airbnb title if it's legal in my area? Yes, 100%. We have an article on this about 420 friendly. Let people know that, because some people that's an important thing, whether they're being a medicated patient or they're coming out to Colorado just for the attraction of like, hey, it's legal pot. How can we go have a good time and experience? I don't even know what the experience is out in Colorado. What that is, like go to stores or if there's clubs. I don't know what that means, but yes, advertise it, because that's a question. That's an important medication for someone or an important part of their trip. Let them know. You can put that in a title as like, 420 plus or 420 friendly. You can put it in the other things to note. You can put it in the summary if that is a reason. I would say in Colorado, when I hear Colorado, I think cannabis, at least, because that's like the top of the thing with most of the stuff in that area. You hear about all the good tax benefits from it. So tell people about that. It's not illegal. Yeah, and then
the other point is that people will travel, even will go for 420 for different reasons. So if you're for example located next to like a hospital or some sort of a major cancer center or something, and, where you're in a 420 friendly market, there's going to be some patients that want something where they want it to be 420 friendly, but not in a place that is drawing a bunch of young party goers that just want to get high, right?
Yeah.
They want a place that's quiet, that's where they can meditate and take their medicine. So think about what segment that you want to target, depending on the kind of fit that you want for your place as well. Because if you got neighbors you know, you don't want to be drawing. You may not want to be attracting like uh, college,
Yeah.
you know, frat boys or something that just want to go there and get high and get crazy.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so you can still list that, but just be clear in your language about what nature of the use is kind of
Yeah.
that you're going for.
Yeah, and if it's particularly segmented to a particular place in the house, like if there's a room, because like not everyone's gonna want to have a smoke smell or whatever smell comes with that. So you can say it's dedicated to like the garage is specifically for consuming your cannabis, and you can whatever it's outside or whatever it is. Just let people know what they can expect to get from that. Cool. Elio, thank you for joining us. It's good to see you. All right, so let's go hop into the next few questions here.
Okay, the next question is from Leslie.
Broad, very broad.
Yeah, there's a broad question. How much should I invest in my unit before listing it on Airbnb? The short answer is as little as you need to make it a great listing for you, right? And what that means in different markets is going to be very different. Okay, in some markets, it also depends on the size of your unit, right? And what kind of what tier it's in. So if you're in a market that's very premium, and you're competing with listings where hey the market just charges $500 a night, but everybody's super premium. Well, you're gonna have to invest a lot more in more premium furniture and premium offerings. But if you're in a market where it's a lot of economy travelers, where it's no frills, then you can probably get simpler stuff.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how you want to position your unit and in what market that you're in. Okay, so if you want to position yourself as kind of the high-end, more luxury unit within your market, then you need to invest a little bit more. But before you do any of that, find out what the market can support first, right? So get the market reports, from Everbook.com or from Airbnb. Really understand what the prices are that people are able to charge on the nightly rates for the different types of properties. Because if let's say you want to list a 2-bedroom full apartment, and in your market, maybe there aren't a lot of other 2-bedroom apartments. Everybody's just kind of sharing private rooms, and you find out that the 2 bedrooms have a huge premium. There are groups. There's just more demand for traveling there with groups, but there just aren't a lot available. Then then you have a choice. And if you see that the other 2 bedrooms are all economy and there's no like premium version, then you may have some room for that. So, but if you see that hey, the listings in the market right now, they're super premium looking. It looks like they have really expensive furniture and all this stuff, but they're not able to charge very high rents still, just because there's not a lot of demand. Then don't invest, right? Don't invest in that. You should take a different position.
Yes, exactly. I got one thing I want to put in. So let me just get that that's a good part. Like that, the positioning part is important. Also, look at what you have already. I mean, if you've got a bunch of stuff, you don't need to invest a lot in there already, right? And then consider buying secondhand. Like everything doesn't need to be brand spanking new. Buy floor models. Lower your cost on things. Go to Salvation Army, because once someone uses it, it's.
Yeah, as a general, I say like what we were going for before. As a general rule of thumb, we thought it's a pretty good return on your investment if you can invest no more than like 5 to 6 months of expected profits once you stabilize.
Yes.
Okay. So if you can expect to make $2,000 in profits, like after all expenses, like in your pocket a month, don't invest more than like $10,000.
Yeah. Perfect. And then lastly, it's like invest in things that are high utility for guests.
Yes.
Don't invest in like a really expensive kitchen table. It's not important. But something that's like a really comfortable bed is important.
Yeah, really nice bed sheets, comfortable bed sheets.
Yeah.
But you can splurge on some of those things that are like super important, that generally are kind of on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of their price anyway.
Yeah.
You don't need to spend money on like a chandelier.
Yeah. That's just whatever's going to make the high utility. If you don't know what that means, like they get high utilization. They find a lot of value in it, and it's more than like it solves a pain. A kitchen table doesn't solve a pain, but a bed solves a pain for them.
Anything that they're going to touch. If they're going to be sleeping on it, sitting on it, they're going to be grabbing it with their hands. They're going to be using it. those are more important to splurge on, right?
Yeah.
So don't have a super crappy coffee maker.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one.
Spend like extra $30 to get something nicer,
Yeah.
that's not going to break down. That can brew the coffee. Because if you drink coffee, anybody who drinks coffee here, like it can make a difference.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, like
it does.
sometimes having a nicer like French press, that maybe is double walled stainless steel instead of just some plastic with some glass sticky stuff. It kind of changes the way the coffee feels as you're brewing it.
Yeah, they call that the halo effect, right?
Yeah, so those things we would recommend splurging a little bit on. But like, yeah, don't splurge on like paintings.
Yeah. Art. Like you just go with simple stuff.
Get something simple. Get something consistent. You can find it in like garage sales. You can go to like swap meets. You can get it from IKEA.
Yeah, IKEA's got a bunch.
Yeah. So think about what is actually relevant and important for the guests.
And another one, a couch is a really good investment too. Things to sit on. Yeah, don't go get an IKEA. I have an IKEA couch in my house, and I do not like it. We just bought it because it was cheap and it looks nice. Yeah, things can look nice, but if they don't feel nice, it's a whole different thing.
So even for things like couches, so really think about ease of maintenance too, cleaning how and wear and tear. Because some are not meant for like people to like just come in like and really abuse it, whereas other types of couches can take a lot more abuse. So,
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Then we'll let's.
Okay.
This one we can just let them know what module to go to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we got a question from Stefan, and the question is how do I properly forecast revenue and profits in order to evaluate the potential ROI on properties? So actually, we did a full module on that in the course that outlines very specifically where do you get the data, how do you look at it, and we actually have the calculator in there that helps you do just that to forecast it. So I highly recommend you to go through that. It's a little tough to explain without showing that here, and that one I think we spent a good amount of time to walk you through there. Yeah. So just go check out that module.
That's it. So let's go see what we got. Some questions in the chat box. We have Elio saying, "Hey Elio, you got sick. Hopefully you're feeling better, man.
Yeah.
Got a brick to the head. That's not good." So he says one owner wanted to go directly in Airbnb after signing a contract and creating 150 listings with 60,000 pounds in revenue or euros in revenue. So not cool at all. Any idea on how to prevent this? And can I hold on my listings in Airbnb? So this is more of a legal question. This is a breach of contract. So you have to look at the remedies in your contract to see what repercussions you have. So if someone breaches contract, you can say, hey, like there's a certain amount of financial penalty, or they have to give notice. This is where the lawyers get involved, especially with contracts. So what I'm telling you is not legal advice. You need to speak with a legal professional in your area, but it comes down to what are the remedies in the contract. Are you subject to arbitration? Can you go into litigation?
Yeah, what is the jurisdiction, right, for your agreement? Because you're operating kind of in different markets.
Yeah, you guys don't know Elio. Elio is like all over Europe.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Elio has like I don't even know how many units. 500 something. He's managing 500 plus units. That's where talking to and having access to a legal advisor is going to be important.
Yes. So yeah, really, to prevent this, you have to have huge penalties in your contract, so people don't go and skip on your stuff.
So I'm also trying to understand. Are you saying also that basically this is a client of yours that gave where you're managing 100 some plus units, but now they're trying to do it on their own?
I think that's what it is.
So the thing is. If you establish those listings and you did it for them, then what you can do is now they would need to create their own listings for those units.
But listings are tied to addresses as well.
Are tied to addresses. Yeah.
But I mean, like if you own a listing for ABC address and then I create a listing for ABC address, it's going to know that we can't rent the same place out. So one of the issues is like, yeah, you're going to have to turn your listings off potentially, but there's a bigger legal thing here. I think.
Yeah. We don't know what your jurisdiction is, but
and one way to prevent it, is don't get into agreements where people are going to be undercutting you like this. If you find that you have a shady owner,
make sure you in your new agreements, if you have tenants, you could say like, hey, you own the listing, they own the property. So if they decide not to go with you, then you will shut off the listing. You can't run your listing with that, and you'll delete it. But then if they decide to do it on their own, they have to start over from scratch.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to build the reviews and everything from scratch. So I think you should review the contracts in there to see if you can gear it towards more this direction. Then it kind of has a built-in, the more successful you are with them, the higher the barrier for them to want to leave you, because then they got to start over, and it's like a long way to work it back up.
Yeah. Good. So let's look at Israel. Harold's got another question. Thanks, guys. You're very welcome. Some guests take my towels or toilet paper. It's a shared bathroom. Shared bathroom. So I'm not sure which of the guests do it. What's the best way to go about that? So this is called the cost of doing business. People are going to walk off with towels. They're going to walk off with the soap or the toilet paper. What you could do is you could put the toilet paper, I guess, on the one roll. If you have like a bathroom in the middle and a bedroom here and a bedroom here, you can put a roll of toilet paper here or a roll here, and they can go back and forth with it. But I wouldn't get so nitpicky about it, because you're worrying about like a 30-cent roll or a $1 roll of toilet paper. Like, shit, just give them like the toilet paper. It's not a big deal. With the towels, yeah, that can be expensive. It can get, a bath towel could be $30 depending. So that could be digging into your thing. Just let them know in your welcome message, or like in a piece of paper that's right here, is like, we want all the towels returned, that 2 towels were dropped here, and that you'll be checking the number of towels at the end. Because some people walk off by accident, they just throw it in their dirty laundry. So just show that you have some inventory of what you put in the room. That'll probably defer, or just send a mental signal to the guests that they don't want to be taking the stuff that's not theirs, because they know someone's watching. That's really the one thing I would say is the most important thing.
Yeah, and sometimes just like a funny little like note, that like, it's like, how do you, I see some people do it where it's like, you just leave a little kind of funny note, and like, don't be like a towel pirate or something.
Yeah.
Put a pirate there, but it's kind of funny. But then it's like, then if they do it, then they have to sort of publicly acknowledge that they're a jerk.
Yeah.
So that kind of can prevent it.
Yeah.
Just follow up with Elio a little bit. If you're not able to own the listing, what you may do and just thinking about different options for your agreements, is that like, hey, as part of getting into building something for clients, you say, look, I'm going to put in a lot of work and effort to help you build this listing. I'm not going to do it for you if you can just take over and kick me out, because this is not worth it for me. I put in all that work, and then you reap all the benefits. What you can do is in your agreement say, if as long as I'm managing your listings for you, this is the structure and this is how much you pay me. But if you leave, if you want to take over on your own, then I still get a cut for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And then after that, you own 100%, or something along those lines, where there's some sort of a penalty or fee for them to go out.
Yeah,
right?
Incentivize them to stay with you.
Yeah, exactly. So just make sure you build some incentives for them to stay with you.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another question, Planet Sim. What should I do when the runtime performance from my just won't respond to my Java file? I think it's a programming question. I have no clue how that relates to hosting. The follow-up question is, should I shut down? Should I shut off the listing, or should I start from scratch again? I'm not sure what that means, Planet Sim. So you want to drop it in there?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have not tried to do anything like that. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Like working the API? I'm not sure. So go ahead and drop in some clarifying comments in there.
Yeah.
Let me go back.
But we're not programmers. We don't build on top of work with the Airbnb API in any way. Yeah.
So cool. Let me just hit. We have a few more minutes here. I'll hit on some more questions that I have from anyone else. Would switching to long-term corporate housing be more profitable? Okay, the short answer is it depends on your market. But if there's business travelers, like if you're in a central business district, going to get corporate leases is a good way to get around these short-term rental issues. But also, it's good to have a constant client. So if Dell wants to, say you're in Austin, and I think they're in Austin, but if Dell wants to pay you, Dell Computers is going to pay you $4,000 for your house because they have people coming in often, and it only costs you $2,000 in a mortgage to get it. Yeah, there's a big incentive there, because they also don't want people living in hotels. Like, how much performance can they get out of someone that has to live in a place that's not a home? So there is a big benefit to that. So consider corporate housing if you're in a place with a lot of headquarters. Yeah,
and you can also think of it, if you're in a place where there's a lot of business travelers, it can make a lot of sense, even if your actual profit at the end of the day is less than you would get from doing Airbnb. So think about it like this: like, if you fill up a unit completely, it's pretty much fully booked, on Airbnb. Um, let's say you're filling like 25 plus days a month. You're probably booking on average 8 to 10 guests there. But imagine you can pretty much fill it up at a lower rate, but you only have one guest there the whole month, and you don't really need to turn.
Yeah.
You just send the cleaner once per week, but you don't need to do that constant communication in turn. So look at the difference is you may make like maybe 20-30% lower, but you're gonna spend 80% less time managing the unit, right? So your hourly rate tends to be better in a corporate situation if you're in a place where the market really supports that.
And a corollary to that is like, if they're tied to a business and they know their boss is going to know if they broke stuff or something, they're not going to trash your place.
Yeah,
so you get a much higher caliber of clients.
It's gonna be less painful.
Yeah. And so Eliel dropped another thing in. He says that he tried to ask for a 70 euro deposit, even if they're going to make them $10,000 a month, and they still won't do it. So what that says to me is that people aren't trusting. They're not going to put cash out. Like, you're looking for business partners. So when you're growing, let me step back. When you're growing a large business, so a 600 unit portfolio, you really need to trust the people you're with. Okay, Simon and I have started businesses. We know each other's pretty much every business about things, and you have to trust these people. If they're not going to trust you with $70, then don't do business with them. It's better to pass up on deals, because deals become headaches, because now you have a legal issue you have to deal with, and you could be passing out tens of thousands of euros to have to actually remedy this situation if you want to take it that far.
Yeah, I mean, we find that like the customers that tend to be the most like the biggest penny pinchers, and they're like worrying about every dime, and they may represent just like a small fraction of your customers, but they represent like the biggest portion of your headache.
Yeah.
So, I agree completely with Jim. You're gonna have to make a decision about, really look at your portfolio of folks, which ones that kind of fall into that category, and then how would you think about the amount of time and effort required to manage your listings and manage your relationships. Oftentimes they're really not worth it.
Yeah, 100%. So you guys have any follow-up questions? We're going to be here for about 3 more minutes, so go ahead and drop them into the chat box. I'm going to hit one more question that I have here that I think is going to become more and more important later in the life cycle of Airbnb hosting. And it comes down to someone asks, how do I get repeat reservations from that enchanting guest? So how do you get repeat bookings, whether from the specific same guest or their family and friends? So there's 2 ways, When you look at your Airbnb listing, so how do you tell someone to go find your listing? You just tell them, go to Airbnb, type in San Diego, and I'm on page 6 on the 10th listing. It doesn't work like that. Or go to airbnb.com/rooms/672-47819. It doesn't work. So one simple thing you can do is to create business cards, go get a web address. It could be marysairbnb.com, and that will forward over to your listing. You can start to reference people, because then you want them to be able to share it with their friends. They can say, here's a card. It has my phone number and my website. Send me a message through Airbnb. Let's say you stayed with me before and use this code word. The code word is cookies, or the code word is happy feet, whatever it is. So that you can offer them there's a thing called custom offers. Because people may be going to Jamaica every year, every 2 years, because they like it, and they love you because you're a great host and you're right by their favorite place to eat. So make it easy for people to find your listing again. It's also getting collateral, and there's also this thing out there called Lodgify. People are starting to create their own booking stuff online. This is a little more of an advanced topic, so don't feel the need to do this right away unless if you've taken care of all the low-hanging fruit that Simon addressed, pictures, copy, offering, your communication speed, things like that, and you really aren't seeing a bump, and maybe going and doing this.
Yeah, and the easy one could be just also like sending, like when you're done and sending as part of your thank you is send them say, hey, if you ever come back and visit within the next year, stay with me and I'll give you this deal.
Yeah.
And if you got friends and family that want to come out, I'll give them the same deal too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then you incentivize them to kind of share it.
Yeah, and one last thing is you guys see that we communicate with you through email because it's a definite place to always get in contact with somebody. You're always going to have access to that. So having a guest book, like a piece of a book that people can just like, they can write, 526, stayed at Simon and Jim's Airbnb, had a great time, here's our email address or whatever. Getting a guest book so you can stay in contact with people, asking for their email address within the, while they are checking in, because you can't ask for email or phone number via Airbnb. They're going to block it out. So just try to message somebody. Your phone number is going to say text is blocked or removed for safety reasons because they want you to do all your communication on Airbnb. But ask someone about their email and then just email them in 6 months or in 2 months or right after they check out. Here's an offer. We'd love to tap you and say come in and stay with us. So consider looking at that as another way to pop up more people. All right, that was an hour-long live Q&A. I really had a great time. This one was a lot. We had a lot of good questions here, all over the map. I don't see any follow-up questions from what we've talked about today. So, again, thank you very much for joining the Learn Airbnb Hosting Masterclass. It's our pleasure to help you achieve all the Airbnb hosting success that you could ever want. We're here for questions. So, join us on the next live Q&A in June. It'll be towards the end of the month. We like to do these. Drop questions in the Facebook group. We're going to get into those. You have our email address. I probably sent you multiple emails. Reply back to any one of those, and you can get in contact with us. We'll answer questions. But again, it's been our pleasure to help you. Thank you for the support, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Yeah, have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you guys soon.